I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into The Locker Room. If you're brand new joining us today, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back, Locker Room faithful. Listen, big weekend happened. We had the NFL Draft. We went live for the first time on the Locker Room podcast on YouTube with several guests. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Over 500 plus watches across all of our social media. So that's pretty remarkable considering our first year doing a live NFL draft show. So thank you to Dylan, to Seth, to Justin for stopping by and being a part of the show. Almost 5 consecutive hours of continuous talking about the NFL draft. So it was a lot of work, and I really do appreciate it, guys. So thank you. If you want to be a part of the Locker Room faithful, if you're new and like, I want to be a part of this family, all right? It's super simple. You got to follow the Locker Room on our social medias. That is where I love to converse with fans. That is where I love to talk to you, the fans. That is where we interact. That is where we give updating news. That is where we give everything. So if you want to be a part of the Locker Room faithful, follow the Locker Room on our social medias. The Locker Room Podcast 615 on Instagram, the Locker Room Host Jacob on Facebook, TLR with Jacob on Twitter, and the Locker Room 22 on TikTok. This episode of The Locker Room is brought to you by FNX Fitness. I will say it every single week. FNX Fitness has changed my life, and it can change yours. For all your gym, health, and fitness needs, go to fnxfitness.com. That is fnxfit.com. Use your promo code TLRHOST for 15% off your order. So this weekend brought us my favorite time of the year. My favorite time of the year has got to be the NFL Draft. This is our 1 year anniversary. The NFL Draft is the Locker Room's first year anniversary of being around. It's so thankful, guys. Really so thankful for anybody who has ever tuned in for the first year of the Locker Room podcast. And if you were with us from the beginning all the way until now, you know how much it's gotten better, and we are only trying to improve that so that you can have the best experience possible. But it marked my 1 year. The very first podcast I ever did was an entire first round breakdown. Now, I'm not going to do it as detailed as I did last time, where I literally talked about each individual player, but I am going to start off with my first round breakdown. Winners, losers, we're going to kind of skim through the entire first round, and then I've got my draft grades. I've gone through and I've given draft grades to all 32 teams for the entire NFL draft, and I will be bringing that to you shortly after I bring you my first round breakdown. Well, the NFL Draft started off with no surprise. Trevor Lawrence and Zack Wilson went number 1 and number 2, something that we have all known about for literally the last 3 months. Why Zack Wilson was just deemed the second best quarterback in this draft, I don't know. I gave you my breakdown on him earlier in the year, and then I gave you my breakdown on him, I think, last week on the podcast. Zack Wilson was my third or fourth best quarterback in this draft, and I think it's more so the situation that he's going to struggle mightily, especially right off the bat, considering they are making him the face of that franchise early. Now, don't get me wrong, we're going to talk about this in my draft grades. I think that the Jets drafted very well. They did exactly what I would do as a GM, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But absolutely, pick number 1, Trevor Lawrence. I have said it repeatedly, there is a non-bustable player, it is Trevor Lawrence. Listen, Trevor Lawrence's ceiling is the Hall of Fame. His plateau, where he's starting off at, is probably a Pro Bowl quarterback. Like, I don't think he's going to automatically snap into Pro Bowl quarterback form year 1. He's not going to be like, I don't know, let's talk about a great quarterback. Justin Herbert, for instance, a great young quarterback, went to the greatest university of all time. He's not going to be like that. He's not going to be Hall of Fame quality like Justin Herbert is yet. Just playing around, guys. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback yet. But no, he's going to instantly come in and be a great impact player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Instantly going to come in and be a leader. And what the Jacksonville Jaguars did around him makes complete sense as to what they're trying to build there. Very excited to see what Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence have have in store for us. Now, Zack Wilson, I've talked about this. I don't know why he's deemed the number 2 overall pick, but I think the Jets did a very good job of drafting around Zack Wilson. The problem they had when they drafted Sam Darnold is they drafted Sam Darnold and then gave him no help, no line help, and they just said, we're going to go defense. We'll look at how that's panned out, right? Half of your good players are now gone, and Sam Darnold is throwing to a bunch of nobodies, being blocked by a bunch of nobodies. So they did a great job of filling that void, and I think the Jets are on an upswing, but I think if there is a quarterback in this draft that could have a lot of struggle or could maybe even be bustable, it's probably going to be Zack Wilson. He's going to a very tough situation. Now let's go to pick number 3. This is the pick that everybody was intrigued about. We knew quarterbacks were going 1, 2, 3. We did not know what quarterbacks were going 1, 2, 3. Except me, Jacob. I stuck with my gut and stuck with Trey Lance here, and here is why, and this is exactly what is being confirmed by head coach Kyle Shanahan. They want Trey Lance to sit behind an experienced quarterback and grow. I mean, this kid's only 20 years old, by the way, but they want him to grow into their quarterback. They want him to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year, get the experience, learn the playbook, so that way when he goes in there, he's not having to process plays. He's not having to process the terminology. He can just go in there and play football. And he'll be 21 years old when he starts in the NFL. Like, what was he, like the 6th or 7th youngest quarterback, something like that, or youngest player taken in the NFL? I forget what it was, but it was a crazy stat. I mean, the kid's 20 years old. And he looks it, too. I mean, he looks like a kid. But Trey Lance was the big question mark here. Were they going to go Mac Jones? What I've said all along is, why would you go with Mac Jones? Why would you go with a player that is exactly what you have, just younger and a tad more athletic? If Kyle Shanahan wants to be so different, wants to push this team forward, it's not going to be with the same old pocket-passing, unathletic quarterback that he's already had basically his entire career. Listen, I will preach this till the day I die. Trey Lance has the possibility of being something special. If they handle this situation right, if they do what they did with Patrick Mahomes, if they let him sit, if they let him grow into the right situation, they have the opportunity to have a once-in-a-generation type quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes. I'm dead serious. He has those kind of intangibles. Now, will that pan out into a once-in-a-generational type of quarterback? I don't know. But Trey Lance is the exact direction that the 49ers needed to go. They needed to go young, athletic, can make throws that Jimmy Garoppolo and Mac Jones simply can't make. He is a special talent, and I think if Kyle Shanahan handles this the right way, Trey Lance will be a home run pick here at number 3. Now, we're not going to go through every single pick in the first round, but it just seems like that for the first couple ones, because we've got to talk about Kyle Pitts is now an Atlanta Falcon. If the Atlanta Falcons decide to hold on to Julio Jones here, the Atlanta Falcons now have Julio Jones, the most unguardable wide receiver, Kyle Pitts, who a lot of people, including myself, think will be a once-in-a-generation type of talent, unguardable player, Calvin Ridley, a very good slot / 2 to 3 receiver, depending what they do with Kyle Pitts. Two options here would have been Penei Sewell or Kyle Pitts. The only two options that you could have done to justify staying at 4. So the Atlanta Falcons, they take Kyle Pitts. Not only the best tight end, but arguably the best offensive player in this entire draft. Not excluding quarterbacks, of course. Hell, even keep the quarterbacks in there, Kyle Pitts might go down as the better one out of them all. But what the Atlanta Falcons did very smartly is they decided every single pick after this one will be defense, and it basically was. From here until the end of the draft, they literally went defense, 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 defense. They are biggest need. Kyle Pitts is scary, folks. I know not a lot of people are talking about him, but Kyle Pitts is disgusting. He is Megatron Jr. Like, he's Calvin Johnson Jr. Somebody who is basically, he's a wide receiver, but he's playing tight end. He could be better than Travis Kelce. He could be better than Travis Kelce in the next, year or two. That's how good this guy is. Then we move on down to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals with their first round pick take Jamari Chase. And I got to tell you, I'm not a fan. I have preached and preached and preached. You must protect your quarterback. What was your problem last year? It wasn't the fact that Joe Burrow wasn't cutting it. It wasn't the fact that you didn't have wide receivers that could catch a football. It was the fact that you couldn't protect Joe Burrow long enough for him to be able to throw passes. It was that you got Joe Burrow hurt in his first year because you have edge rushers rushing in like it's the open border. So instead, and I said this on the Draft Night podcast, I said it to Seth, and I said, I would rather have a quarterback that throws to Joe Schmo, some horrible-ass wide receiver that you pulled up off the practice squad, but he's able to at least throw the ball, than a quarterback who can't throw the ball to Jamari Chase because he's being sacked 15 times a game. Penei Sewell, or hell, if you didn't like Penei Sewell, and I'm not just tooting his horn because I'm a Ducks fan, Penei Sewell was the guy, go Rashawn Slater. You need to protect your young quarterback. I was not a fan of this pick. Now, do I think Jamari Chase is a very good wide receiver and is the most pro-ready? Yeah, he'll be just fine, and I like the reunions that we had going on throughout this entire draft. It seemed like Tua reuniting with Waddle. You had Joe Burrow. It seems like everybody in Alabama went to the Raiders. But I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this pick whatsoever. And then that moves us right on to Jalen Waddle. Listen, Miami had enough picks. To where they didn't have to go offensive lineman instantly. Now, Penei Sewell is on the board, and you had a pick number 18, and a player like Elijah Moore fell. And so if I'm the GM here, if I'm Miami, I'm taking Penei Sewell at pick number, 5, 6? Yeah, pick number 6. And then I'm taking Elijah Moore, Rondo Moore, Rashard Bateman. I'm going another very good wide receiver. With Elijah Moore, Rondo Moore, those guys have the possibility of being great in the NFL. I would have gone there, and I would not have gone Jalen Waddle here. Now, do I think Tua's going to do very well with Jalen Waddle? I hope so, yeah. Jalen Waddle was Tua's first love, so this should be the type of player that Tua Tagovailoa really gels with, and you see great chemistry instantly. But I'm also kind of on the edge of this. I would have switched things up, even though Jalen Waddle is a pretty damn good pick here. I'm still all for protecting my quarterback, and if you have a player like Penei Sewell on the board, I don't understand why you don't go get him. I'll tell you who went up and got a player that they want, though. And that brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles trade up and go get Devontae Smith. Now, this might be one of the biggest steals of the whole first round. Maybe, hell, might even be the draft. Now, there's a ton of diamonds in the roughs that I've seen, but this is a great pickup they need somebody that can be their dynamic number one, their all-star guy. You got Jalen Reagor last year, so you got the speed guy. Now you got Devontae Smith, who's not only a speed guy, but he's a dynamic route runner, a great pass catcher. He's your guy. So I like the fact that they traded up. They said that the second they saw Devontae Smith still on the board, they decided, screw our first-round pick, screw who we were going to go with, you go get Devontae Smith. And they did. Rashawn Slater was still on the board, but at the end of the day, the Eagles are the exception. Where Miami still has weapons, even if they don't go wide receiver right off the bat at pick number 6, the Eagles don't. You have an unhealthy Jalen Reagor, who was injured all throughout his entire rookie season, came in and played okay. You have Deshaun Jackson, who literally did absolutely nothing for you the last few years. I couldn't even tell you who the rest of their wide receiving core is. They got Alshon Jeffrey, who's done jack all since they made that big Super Bowl run and since the season after that. Like, you go get yourself a weapon. And what a weapon to get. I mean, Devontae Smith, who a lot of people had as the first or second wide receiver that should have been taken off this board, they're able to steal him at 10. So I thought that was a great pickup in the first round. And then that brings me to the Chicago Bears. The Bears. Chicago did something that they've never done in their entire lives. Chicago had some balls, moved up, and went and got themselves a quarterback. Not only a quarterback, a generational type quarterback. A quarterback that is not a pocket presence, terrible, old white guy. It seems like every Bears quarterback, when they come into the league, even Mitchell Trubisky, it plays like a 65-year-old white guy who's playing quarterback at his family's Thanksgiving dinner, right? They're slow. They can't move out of the pocket. They can't scramble. Mitchell Trubisky was the most athletic and best scrambler out of all of them, and even he wasn't that good. Like, I think Mitchell Trubisky will be a good backup and will be a decent starter wherever he gets an opportunity to do that. And I know he's a backup for the Bills right now, but, of course, Josh Allen, barring any injury, he'll never see the field. But the Chicago Bears did something, like I said, that they've never done. Go get yourself an athletic quarterback. Go get yourself a quarterback that can make plays for himself. Go get yourself a quarterback that can go outside of the pocket when he needs to. Go get yourself a quarterback that is accurate/dynamic. They've never had a dynamic presence at the quarterback helm. And Justin Fields fills that void. See, the Chicago Bears did something that they also don't do, which is move up into the draft and draft smart. The Chicago Bears, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, they were drafting for their jobs, right? They had to nail a home run, and they decided that they're going to move all the way up to 11, and they're going to draft a quarterback. And Justin Fields is still on the board, who a lot of people, I'm not joking here, a lot of people have Justin Fields ranked right behind Trevor Lawrence. Some of them even have him way more close to Trevor Lawrence than I ever will. But if this guy is what a lot of people are saying he is, if this guy is not a typical Ohio State quarterback who plays in the league for a year and then turns to a wide receiver and or is out of the league and playing for the CFL that very next year, if Justin Fields is that guy, Chicago not only hit a home run, they hit a grand slam. They didn't have to mortgage their future to go get this guy. They didn't have to trade 3 number ones just to move all the way up to pick number 3 or to pick number 4. They didn't have to do any of that. Chicago went up and got their guy, so kudos to the Bears for actually doing something. Then another dynamic pick right behind them, the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, they didn't need wide receiver. They needed cornerback. And when Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn were off the board, who a lot of people have those two as the best 2 cornerbacks in this draft, I think J.C. Horn has the opportunity to be that. But I think the Titans killed it getting Kayla Farley. Listen, I've been preaching Kayla Farley on this podcast. So for all you Titans fans that are messaging me, oh, is Kayla Farley that good? Yeah, he's the fastest person with straight line speed in the NFL. He's faster than Tyreek Hill, okay? That is an absolute fact. You can literally look it up. Caleb Farley, barring that he doesn't have any more back or health issues, is going to be the best cornerback in this draft. He was the number 1 rated cornerback before he got hurt. Anyways, back to the Cowboys. The Cowboys had a need. Sean Lee just retired. The Cowboys were horrible on defense. They had to address defense, and they got the best defensive player in this entire draft in Micah Parsons. They traded with the Eagles. The Eagles basically said, from what I understood, the phone call was, hey, we're going offense. The Cowboys knew they were going defense, and if you can't get one of the cornerbacks that you love, then this was an incredible pickup. You needed help at the linebacker position. Your safeties and corners are still terrible, but you finally did something by moving up, and so the Cowboys had a fantastic pick right behind the Chicago Bears. Another pick after that, listen, this first round had a lot of great picks in a row. The Chargers were able to slide all the way, stay in the back, and not have to slide up and down is what I was trying to say. And they were able to get Rashawn Slater. Now, Rashawn Slater, who a lot of people have him graded even with Penei Sewell, or even some of them have him above Penei Sewell, and I think that's ludicrous. But Rashawn Slater was the guy that could change culture for these Chargers. Justin Herbert, and this is why I love this draft pick, Justin Herbert needed more protection. He can throw to a third-string wide receiver off the practice squad for a couple weeks or for a year. They can't do that if Justin Herbert is sitting there with a torn ACL and 2 broken collarbones because they can't protect him. So good. You finally did a great job. This was a great pickup. One of my steals of the first round. Able to slide Rashawn Slater all the way back and get him at the Chargers. I love this pick. This first round had a lot of hitters. And in case you can't tell, I'm literally trying to nail down the hitters and then the stinkers. All right. Elijah Vera Tucker was a very good pickup for the Jets. Not going to talk too much about that. Mac Jones lands at the Patriots. This arguably won the whole first round because, like the Chargers, they didn't have to move up to get the guy that they wanted. The Chargers knew that they wanted to go offensive lineman. The Patriots knew they wanted to go quarterback. And the Patriots did not have to move a muscle, and they got the quarterback that they wanted. Mac Jones with New England is scary. Mac Jones with San Francisco, Mac Jones with Chicago, Mac Jones with anybody else, with Washington, I don't care, is not very good. New England's playbook is built off of Tom Brady. Chase Daniels calls plays like he still has Tom Brady at quarterback. That is why Cam Newton wasn't that successful last year. Even though he was hurt and had COVID and all that, the system is not built for a running quarterback. The system is not built for a quarterback that can't deliver an accurate football quickly and then take big bombs. Mac Jones will do excellent at New England. Listen, I'm not as high on Mac Jones as a lot of people. I think Mac Jones could have been a serviceable quarterback to okay quarterback to low-end starter in the NFL if he would have gone anywhere else but New England. But the fact that they were able to land him in New England, Bill Belichick is very close to winning this draft in my mind. Now, he didn't. I'll give you my draft winner at the very end, or draft winners. But Bill Belichick did a fantastic job in this draft. Ronnie Perkins, Barrymore, stupid good. He drafted quality over quantity. And I love the fact that Mac Jones fell here. Which moves us to our first head scratcher of the day, Alex Leatherwood to the Raiders. I don't know what John Gruden's doing. I don't know if it's the fact that he has a guaranteed $100 million contract over 10 years, but he sucks at drafting. We can all agree on that. Alex Leatherwood was projected a second to third round draft pick, right? They took Alex Leatherwood when he had a 76% chance of dropping to them at their original pick in the second round. So you slide up and take Alex Leatherwood. Listen, you need help. You need help on the offensive line. You need help at tackle specifically. But when you have guys like Telvin Jenkins sitting there, and you're going to slide all the way up and pick up Alex Leatherwood, I don't know what you're doing. He's just reaching. If they have Alabama in front of their name, it just seems like John Gruden's just going to take them. Oh, they have Alabama. They played at Alabama. They played at Clemson. They played at Ohio State. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take them. They must be amazing. Alex Leatherwood is going to be a good starter in the NFL. He is not the pick that should have been made here. So stupid. Huge loss in the first round. I think the Raiders are the worst drafting team in all of the NFL, based on what I've seen from under the reign of Gruden. So I guess that's what happens when you give a guy $100 million over 10 years. He just doesn't have to give a crap about what he's doing. Now let's go to a team who does give a crap about what they're doing and made arguably the biggest improvement to an already amazing defense, the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts, I hate to say it, have the best defense in the NFL, and the Tennessee Titans should be very worried. They added Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye, one of the best defensive linemen in this draft out of Michigan. They were able to add Kwity Paye all the way back at 21. Now, the Colts, I'm guaranteeing this now. The Colts will have the best defense in the NFL. That is my projection. That is my prediction right now. The Colts already had a top 2 defense last year. Now you're adding Kwity Paye, and you added an array of other great talent throughout this entire draft. Kwity Paye might have been one of the biggest steals in the first round for the simple fact that where he went to. Like, if he would have fallen all the way down to the Buccaneers, we'd be our minds would be blown. Well, the Indianapolis Colts had the best defense or second best defense throughout 90% of the season last year, and they just added arguably the best defensive lineman right behind Barrymore in this draft. And that's just what the analysts say. I think Kwity Paye is way better than Barrymore. I think he's a little bit more physical, and I love his explosion off of the line more so than I do Barrymore. So if that's the case, let's stick with my hypothesis that I'm correct. Kwity Paye is the best defensive lineman, and he just went to the best to second best defense in the entire NFL. Speaking of defense, let's move over to the same division, the Tennessee Titans. I've already talked about it. Kayla Farley, a very underrated cornerback, the number 1 ranked cornerback if he did not have this back injury. And I think that's the biggest question here that Titans have to fear. Is Kayla Farley going to be able to stay healthy? Is Kayla Farley healthy enough to start and play in the NFL for several seasons? I don't doubt the pick. I think the pick was amazing. The Titans did a great job of drafting a guy that is their biggest weakness, which is the cornerback side of the defense. And they drafted a guy that could change life at the cornerback position. But can he stay healthy? Can Kayla Farley stay healthy enough to be that number one guy? So for Indianapolis, it's going to be, can their defense continue to stay on the same track? And for the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be, can their defense start getting healthy? And can their defense start forming like they need it to form? This is going to be a fun division to watch. I know a lot of people have said it's one of the worst divisions in all of the NFL, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't say that the whole division's bad, because I think the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts are two very fun teams, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. Moving on to the AFC, listen, Najee Harris is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Najee Harris, an incredible pickup for the Steelers. Listen, they lost Connor in the offseason. Their biggest problem was conversions on third and short. Now, the Titans' biggest problem was stopping people on third and short. Worst in NFL history. But the Pittsburgh Steelers' biggest problem was being able to convert on third and ones, third and twos, third and threes. They would throw the ball on third and one because they did not trust their backfield to get through. Now, I understand that the Pittsburgh Steelers line needs a lot of help as well, but James Conner was not the guy to burst through. And he doesn't play the Pittsburgh Steelers type of football, which is we're going to throw the ball over the field with Big Ben, and then we have a big old running back, a very physical running back that loves to run down your throat. Najee Harris fits the mold of Pittsburgh better than anybody that they've had in recent memory. This was a very good pickup. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't understand why you take a running back this early. Listen, you don't take a running back this early unless that's one of your biggest weaknesses. And unless you have a guy like Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey that's up there. Great pickup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. One of the better draft picks of the later rounds. And immediately following Najee Harris came Travis Etienne. Now, I was not a big fan of this draft pick. I'm still not a big fan of this draft pick at this pick. There was too many good positions available and great players available, there was too many great players available to go with this running back position. You were in position in the second round to take him at your first pick in the second round, and he would have still been there. All the teams behind you would have not have even thinking of taking Travis Etienne. But there's a lot of players on the board that I think you could have gone with. Gregory Russo is a big one for me. Why Gregory Russo is not something that you're even considering? You don't have a defensive line. I understand you want to get Trevor Lawrence help, but you already have a very good undrafted rookie running back at last year that balled out. So now you're getting rid of him and you're going to try and do this dual running back system until Travis Etienne can take it over completely. It's not that I don't like this pick, and it's not that I don't like this pick in the beginning of the second round. I don't think this pick made sense in the first round. But I will tell you what pick did make complete sense in the first round, and that was Rashad Bateman to the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens' biggest struggle was throwing the football. They are the best runners of the football from the quarterback and running back positions. And I'm not saying they have the best players, but they're the most dynamic running that we've ever seen in the last couple of years. And they were not able to win football games for the simple fact that they couldn't complete a 15-yard pass. Hollywood Brown, while I like Hollywood Brown, I think he's explosive and good, Hollywood Brown can't do it by himself. He's not a number one guy. So what did they do? They went out and got their number one guy in the first round. Rashad Bateman is one of the more underrated wide receivers in this draft. 6'2", 250, I think he's 215. This is a big guy. Who's also a very good route runner, by the way. Oh, and also has incredibly good hands. What another great pickup here in the first round. I'm telling you, this first round was littered with some very good draft picks. Rashad Bateman is going to change life, going to change Lamar Jackson's life, and is going to change the Baltimore Ravens from being a team that can't pass the football and catch the football to a team that is so balanced on both sides is going to be scary. Which is not good news for anybody in the AFC, because I think the Baltimore Ravens are about to come back on a tear this year. I love Rashad Bateman in this pick. And the last pick I want to talk about in my first round breakdown, Eric Stokes to Green Bay. Now, Green Bay has Green Bay has already lost the NFL draft, has already lost NFL free agency, has already lost this upcoming season, will now be the worst team in the division behind the Detroit Lions if they do not have Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback helm. Like, they're going to be terrible. They will have the worst quarterback in the entire division, and I can't wait. As a Bears fan, I cannot wait. I can't wait for Green Bay to crash and burn to the ground. They've already lost this entire year for the simple fact that Aaron Rodgers does not want to return, and it's looking like most likely he will not return to the Green Bay Packers. So then what do you do to compound that? You go out in the first round and draft a second to third round cornerback in Eric Stokes. I don't think that Eric Stokes is a bad player. I think Green Bay is dumb. I think Green Bay is the worst drafting organization right behind the Raiders. What Green Bay has done, at least the last 2 years, see, Green Bay usually has a track record of drafting pretty well, right? Now they don't take offense and wide receivers a whole lot because they just expect Aaron Rodgers to just be miraculous and have to heal all wounds there. But overall, they usually draft very well on the defensive side of the football, especially offensive line, defensive line. Like, they're a very good and well-run organization a lot of the times. The last 2 years, Jordan Love pick made absolutely no sense when they took him. And then, of course, you fall all the way to this year and you take Eric Stokes. Eric Stokes is a second to third round guy any day of the week. You want to reconcile with Aaron Rodgers? You want to reconcile and mend this relationship? Go get him Elijah Moore. Go get him Rondale Moore. Go get him a wide receiver that can go catch the football alongside Devontae Adams. Go get him an offensive weapon. Go get him a tight end. Hell, get him a running back. I don't care. Get him any kind of weapon. And instead you go with Eric Stokes, which makes zero sense in the first round, and you're about to let Aaron Rodgers walk out the door. One of the best throwers of the football we have ever seen, and that's saying a lot for me because I hate Green Bay with a passion, and I'm not a great fan of Aaron Rodgers. But the biggest loss in this entire first round was the Green Bay Packers. Between Alex Leatherwood to the Raiders and the Green Bay Packers the last 2 years and the Raiders basically ever since Gruden's been there, these organizations are just becoming a joke when it comes to the NFL draft. Eric Stokes was not the guy to make there. Eric Stokes was not the player that is going to change life in Green Bay. You should have gone and gotten Aaron Rodgers whatever he wanted, appease him because he is the only player that, if playing at a high level, could take your organization to another Super Bowl. And I'm going to use this pick to transition into my NFL draft grades. Now, I'm not going to go through every single team because there's a lot of teams that just did mediocre stuff. I'm basically going to go through the best and the worst. So, we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers. My overall draft grade for the Green Bay Packers, well, I think they did better in the later rounds. Starting off the bat, Eric Stokes was not the guy to take in the first round. You could have gone and gotten Elijah Moore. Instead, they replaced Elijah Moore with Amari Rodgers, who Amari Rodgers, while I think he's going to be valuable in the NFL, is not Elijah Moore, who I think is going to be very good to great in the NFL. I'm going to give the Green Bay Packers a C-. Listen, Eric Stokes in the first round. I like Josh Myers, the center out of Ohio State, in the second round. They needed someone to replace what they had lost. I like Amari Rodgers, but I don't love Amari Rodgers. Amari Rodgers is basically like giving Aaron Rodgers $20 and saying, hey, go get yourself something nice, as opposed to giving him $100 and say, get yourself something real nice. Right? He's the poor man's Elijah Moore. I like Royce Newman, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of value, I don't think, further on down. I think the best pick is that cornerback Shamar Jean-Charles out of Appalachian State. Like, that is the best valuable pick in my eyes. You got another running back, you got another linebacker, you got another guard. Like, guys that I think are okay, but guys that I don't think are going to impact the team as much as they should be able to. And the simple fact that, and I'm lumping Aaron Rodgers into this because that's why my grade's so low. Hell, I might go, because of the loss of Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to say this loss of Aaron Rodgers is going to happen. I'm giving the Packers a D-. All right? I'm just going to go D-. Because if you're going to lose Aaron Rodgers is a part of this draft process in my mind, because if you would have just said, Aaron, stick with us, we're going to go get you weapons, I think Aaron Rodgers would still be a Green Bay Packer. Instead, I think Aaron Rodgers is 100% going to walk. So for this case, the Green Bay Packers have not only screwed themselves royally for the future, they get a D- in my draft grade, and I cannot stand what I have seen from that organization. And listen, I hate Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, I kind of feel bad for the guy. Now let's go over to a team that's in this division, my Bears, the Chicago Bears. And listen, for those of you going, why are you saying my Bears? Listen, I support the Titans. I'm a Titans fan. I like the Titans. I'm 70-30, right? Bears-Titans. I spent my life growing up in Chicago, but I've also been in Nashville a very long time. So let's go 70-30. Of course, I support the Titans. I'm going to get a shirt that says Bear down on one side and Tighten up on the other just to make myself happy. But the Chicago Bears, I wanted to stay in this division for the simple fact that you can see how two organizations, one that's used to drafting very well and is well respected in the Green Bay Packers, one that sucks at drafting, has always been terrible at drafting, and has been terrible basically since 2006, the 1 year, and the 85 Bears. Those were about the only two good teams that we've seen in a very long time for Chicago. But the Chicago Bears are going to get an A- for me. You go get Justin Fields. You go get Tavon Jenkins, my my fifth ranked lineman in this draft. I love Tevin Jenkins. Good grief, Jacob. But I love Tevin Jenkins here. I love the fact that the Bears were aggressive this draft too. They moved up. They went and got Tevin Jenkins. They also got offensive tackle Larry Borom. He's another guy that was super underrated. He was ranked very high, and they were able to snag him. I think one of the biggest steals in their entire draft class was Khalil Herbert. Listen, Khalil Herbert was a record breaker, star running back out of Virginia Tech. They were able to get that man at pick 221. And then, of course, Thomas Graham Jr., another player that I had been preaching for teams like the Titans to go out and grab, because Thomas Graham Jr., I think, is very underrated when it comes to the cornerback position out of the greatest school ever, Oregon. And then they've got that Tonga dude out of BYU, just some big, massive D tackle. I was looking at him earlier. I mean, they got value from start to finish, and I think that's how I'm grading my draft classes. Did you get value from the start of the draft to the finish? And how did you do in the in-between when you didn't have enough draft picks to move up and go get a Tevin Jenkins? When you didn't have any capital to move around? What did you do? Did you get better? And I think the Chicago Bears from top to bottom got better. A- for the Chicago Bears. I think Justin Fields, Tevin Jenkins, and Khalil Herbert are the three biggest surprises for Bears fans. We're all surprised that we were able to not only draft up and go snag two guys that we really wanted, but get such a good value at running back all the way at Khalil Herbert. So Chicago Bears, A-. Here's a team that I think a lot of people are giving way too high of a draft grade. I've seen all the way from B- to B+, all the way to a solid A. The Seattle Seahawks had one of the worst drafts this year. So the Seattle Seahawks decide, instead of getting Russell Wilson blocking, instead of getting another a running back that maybe can stay healthy, instead of going, the offensive line or the defensive line, their two worst positions, they go out and get Dwayne Eskridge, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan. I don't understand why Seattle is continually trying to just stock up on offense. You're not Patrick Mahomes, right? I think Russell Wilson is up there, don't get me wrong, but you don't have a tight end that can make your playbook more dynamic. Listen, what a lot of people don't understand is you could have the greatest receiving core in history, but a tight end and a solid offensive line could be the difference maker in having a dynamic offense and just a team with three very good wide receivers. You didn't get any value at the tight end position. Defensive line and offensive line are their worst and absolute worst positions on their entire team. And you go out and get, and I know you didn't have many draft picks, you only had 3. You go out and get a wide receiver out of Western Michigan that would have lasted to you. You go out and get a cornerback, Trey Brown, which if you wanted a cornerback so bad, at pick 56, you had a ton of value at the quarterback position still available. Tay Godwin, for example. Very good cornerback out of UCF. You let him slide. And then you go get an offensive tackle, Stone Forsyth, the lineman out of Florida. Listen, Trey Smith fell way back in the draft. If you wanted an offensive tackle so bad, I would have traded pick 208 and pick whatever, a 6-rounder next year, and gone up and gotten Trey Smith. Hey, Trey Smith is somebody who I wish the Titans would have drafted because it would have made so much sense. We passed on him not once, not twice, but 3 times. Trey Smith is a massive, massive lineman out of the University of Tennessee. He had a couple blood clot issues, but that is a guy who could change culture and life if he's healthy. I would have taken the chance on that rather than draft Stone Forsyth, who's not really that good, especially in his ranking. He's probably not going to start for you. And then you go get Dwayne Eskridge to try and give Russell Wilson more and more weapons when you already have Tyler Lockett, when you already have DK Metcalf. Like, if you're going to go get a guy that changes somebody's world, go draft higher, trade all your draft picks in and just try and get a higher draft pick if you want an offensive player that bad. Try and sneak up to, try and take a pick off of the Ravens in the first round and go get yourself Elijah Moore if that's what you want so bad. I don't understand what Seattle did in this draft. I'm going D-. Now let's go to a team that has a much higher grade, a team that is very close to being my team that won the draft, for the simple fact that they didn't have to draft a damn player and they still would return all 22 starters to their football team. The defending Super Bowl champs got an A- from me. Listen, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did a great job. They got a linebacker, Joey Tryon. He's just a blitzing linebacker. I understand at this point they just want more weapons to play with, so they go out and get a linebacker straight up at number 32. But Kyle Trask is a very interesting / very good pickup for them. They get a quarterback that can sit under Tom Brady for the next, let's say, 2 years. And we know the benefit of sitting under star quarterbacks. We know the benefit of being able to learn under Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We have seen it play out time and time and time again. So the fact that they got Kyle Trask in the second round, I love that pick. I love Robert Hennessy, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Listen, Notre Dame, every time you talk to an NFL scout, and I actually did talk to somebody who is an NFL scout, he said that Notre Dame linemen are the toughest and are the most well and technically sound offensive linemen when they hit the NFL draft. Not that they're necessarily the best, or they just said that they're basically plug-in starters, and even though their ceilings might be low, even though they might not be the greatest linemen in the world, they're instantly starting in the NFL because they're so technically sound, because they're so tough and rugged. So like that pick right there, these are 3 very good picks that all they're doing is they're just adding flavor to the steak, right? We've already got a filet mignon cooked beautifully. And at this point, they're just piling on the salt, piling on the pepper, putting a little A1 sauce off to the side so that you can dip very gently. Like, this is Flavor Town, right? And I don't know if I say Flavor Town if I have to dye my mustache bleach blonde and start wearing sunglasses and flame t-shirts. And for those of you who don't get that reference, I'm not going to explain it to you because that's a great reference. But just to add on to this entire thing, I think KJ Britt, the linebacker out of Auburn that they were able to snag at, what was it? I'm trying to look at my notes. Pick 176. Like, their linebacking core was already one of the best ones when it hit playoff time. And Evans was, of course, remarkable. They are just adding on to that linebacking core to be so deep and so dynamic that they're going to be able to run so many different defensive schemes for the simple fact that they have the depth to do that. So I love what the defending Super Bowl champs did. A-. This was a very good draft. And, you're returning all 22 starters for next year. So in case that doesn't get your blood flowing, I don't know what will. Now, I have to, for the simple fact that, of course, we're based out of Nashville. I've got to touch on the Tennessee Titans. I'm not going to try and do it too long. But my overall draft grade for the Tennessee Titans is a B+. Now, the Tennessee Titans made very good picks and then very bad picks, and I think that's why it's balanced out like this. Kayla Farley, very good pick. Offensive tackle, Dylan Redunce, my 6th overall ranked offensive lineman. I love him. Very, very, very good pick. Linebacker Monty Rice, not a very good pick. Not that he's not going to be good, but we still have Evans for a year. Why not address linebacker next year? Why? Why not go address linebacker next year? It makes 0 sense to me, and I literally mean 0 sense to me that we would address linebacker this early in the draft when wide receiver was clearly such a glaring issue. Elijah Molden, fantastic pick. This was the best late round pickup of all the teams I've talked about so far. So the Titans did a great job of solidifying their backfield, which is their biggest problem on defense. This is what we have struggled with. This is what the Tennessee Titans needed help with, and they got Elijah Molden and Kayla Farley. Now let's pray that Kayla Farley can stay healthy, because if so, this is a dynamic backfield. Dez Fitzpatrick, Louisville's wide receiver. I don't like this pick. And I also don't like the fact that the Titans gave up three draft picks in order to move up to grab this guy. From the film that I watched, he's a big possession receiver, which we already have out of A.J. Brown. So I don't understand this pick from the Tennessee Titans. Rashard Weaver, the defensive end out of Pittsburgh. I love this pick. I don't love the fact that he's already been charged with assault. It seems like the Tennessee Titans can't catch a break with somebody that's a decent human being. But yeah, Rashard Weaver's, he's a big body boy. He's a very good defensive end, another position that the Titans are lacking in. And then they got Brady Breeze. Now, Brady Breeze is my diamond in the rough. I talked about it on draft night. I said that Brady Breeze is the most underrated player in this draft. This guy had 3 interceptions in the Rose Bowl, 2 of those returned for a touchdown. He is the real deal, and the Tennessee Titans got him for a steal. So while I love what the Tennessee Titans did to solidify that backfield, they got 3 guys in Brady Breeze, Kayla Farley, and Elijah Molden that can play ball in the cornerbacks and safety positions, but I do not like really how they filled out the rest of the roster. I like Dylan Redunce, but that's about it. The Titans, yet again, surprise and make me happy, and then, of course, disappoint me all in the same night. And now, of course, let's get to the winner of draft night, the team that simply hit a home run, it seemed like, on every single pick that they had. And don't worry, they had like 29 picks, it felt like, in this 2021 draft, the Miami Dolphins. I tweeted it out. I posted it on my social media after the first draft day, I think. Yeah, it was before the second and third round had even come to had even started. The Miami Dolphins have won this draft. So the Miami Dolphins reunite Tua Tagovailoa with Jalen Waddle. His name's so fun to say, right? Like Tua Tagovailoa. Love it. Anyways, they reunite Tua Tagovailoa with Jalen Waddle, which I already talked about this. I would have gone offensive lineman here. I would have gone Penei Sewell and then maybe gotten Elijah Moore later on in the draft, but that's just me. So let's just stick with what they got. Jalen Waddle, fantastic pick. Jalen Phillips, probably the most underrated edge rusher in this draft. Like that, one of their biggest needs on defense was edge rusher, and they addressed it super early. It's very rare that you see a team with this many picks really hit on every single need and be able to hit home runs on every single need. So I thought they needed a dynamic wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. They needed an edge rusher in Jalen Phillips. Safety out of Oregon, Javon Holland, another fantastic pickup. Listen, Javon Holland can play ball. I've watched every single game that the Oregon Ducks have played. Javon Holland's not only a big, strong safety, Javon Holland can change culture down there in Miami. Any offensive lineman out of Notre Dame is always going to be a home run. Liam Inchberg, another player that I was really begging the Tennessee Titans or the Chicago Bears to go ahead and draft. He's a big body, instant starter on the offensive line. Listen, what I like about Eichberg, what I like about Eichberg is the fact that Eichberg can switch positions. I've talked about this. You upcoming linemen, you need to be able to be diverse across the board. You can't just be like, well, all I play is guard. All I play is right guard. I can't play left guard. If you're able to somehow train yourself at a young age and learn how to start switching positions and be versatile on the line, you will make yourself not only the most valuable lineman in any draft, but you're on your way to making yourself the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft if you can make yourself that diverse. Then to make matters worse, they go out and get Hunter Long. Hunter Long is the best catching tight end in this draft statistically. He does not drop the ball when it comes to the red zone, which is what they need. They went out and got a tight end for the simple fact that they need a guy that's not going to drop the football when they need him to catch it most. And that is why they got a literal red zone threat in Hunter Long, the tight end out of Boston College. Larnell Coleman, another very big offensive lineman, another thing that they need, which is to protect Tua Tagovailoa. And then they got Jared Dokes out of Cincinnati. Listen, Jared Dokes and Cincinnati were a dynamic team this year, but he is a quick, speedy back. And with the additions of Burita and some other guys that they have down there, like this offense for Miami just became one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Dolphins will go as far as Tua Tagovailoa takes them. How will Tua Tagovailoa develop in his second year? Will we see games where he's throwing 9 of 21? I don't think so. I think that the fact that they've given him so many weapons is going to boost Tua Tagovailoa's play. The Miami Dolphins walked away with this draft, and it's hard to hit on every draft pick. I've said this. There are teams that have had more draft picks than the Dolphins did this year, and we have seen teams like that blow it time and time again. The Dolphins hit it out of the park, an A+ for me. Well, and there it is. That is my entire draft grade, my first round breakdown, just touching on the draft list, and I know you're tired of hearing about the draft, so I wanted to do one more draft show for you on the Locker Room Podcast, so I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Listen, if you enjoyed the Locker Room Podcast, make sure you're sharing with a friend. The more you can spread the word, the more we can grow. But that is the entire first round. Follow us on our social media. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk about the draft with you. How did your team do? And if you want to know your team grade, you can shoot me a message or a DM on Instagram, and I will send you back my team grade for your team if I did not get to them today. So I'd love to do that for you. Make sure you stick with us every single week because we are just growing and getting better, and it's all because of you. So once again, guys, I'm Jacob Courtwright. This is The Locker Room.